Welcome to The Full Experience. This is the show where we will... Why is it still showing that? There we go. This is the show where Amos is not here and I'm running things on video. And on audio, everything is fine. You can't see anything is wrong. I'm Tom Merritt, and this is the show where we look at the first, the ultimate, the lowest, and the last episode in a series to get the flavor of the entire series, to get the full experience of that series. So the first episode, of course, the premiere. The ultimate is the highest rated, the lowest is the lowest rated, and the last is the season finale. We are beginning The Wire with the first episode that aired June 2nd, 2002, The Target. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, man. Boy, oh boy. You saw this yesterday and you texted me saying, whoa, man, The Wire. I was like, I don't remember the first episode being so good. And then I pressed play today and I was like, oh, it's different now. It's like coming home. Yeah. It's really wild.
It's just so well built. It feels like an episode from the middle of the season. In fact, that iconic scene at the end where they're by the railroad tracks drinking Jamesons, I imagined that, because they do that more than once. I imagined that starting much later. I didn't remember it being in the very first episode.
Also, it's so fascinating for those of you guys who have not been keeping up. We covered every single episode of The Wire back when we were doing full seasons. 14 years ago, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
And I think it was the first full watch that we did. And now we're revisiting it 15 years after the fact. And one of the things about The Wire, when I watched it the first time, I hated it. It was homework. It was hard because you never spent enough time with any one character to get to know any of them. And it's just like, geez, this just brutal grind of, like, I think each character has maybe anywhere from 60 seconds to 3 minutes of airtime throughout the hour. And it's just,
and you're like, and trying to remember their names. Like, I know their names now, thankfully, but like, I don't think I caught Kima's name until episode 5 or 6, the first time I watched this.
Yeah. And also I don't know who I like or don't like. I don't know which of these are going to be stubs that don't go anywhere. Like, for example, the commissioner, as far as I knew, going into it the first time, the commissioner was just as important as McNulty. It gives you no indication who's more important, which of course is by design because David Simon wanted to make the main character the city, the holistic city of Baltimore, which with all of its ups and downs and internal systems. And once you know that, once you've experienced it, it is just so rich and delightful. We've talked about this in other times as well. But this is the first time we're rewatching it in that 16:9 format, which, if you're unfamiliar, this was shot on film with a safe range. They framed everything in a safe range of 4:3, which means because it's so punched in, for every single scene, they could choose to widen the shot, or they could choose to punch all the way in, basically, whether you want to go tight and cut things off to preserve the angles so you don't see something that you're not supposed to see, or whether you want to go wide and maybe possibly change the context of the story. There's a couple times I could kind of tell that an intentional decision was being made one way or the other on that, but it was just a delight to visit it. It is. I remember the first time also thinking this is pretty dated stuff, but of course now we know that that's part of it too. Is it starts with landlines and beepers and ends with, and then their burner phones mess things up and.
Or as you pointed out, cool edit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is McNulty goes in and visits an FBI guy who we never see again. And again, I have no way the first time watching this to know which of these are significant characters, but he is dazzled by the resources that the FBI have. And then we see them. He is scrolling by. He's like, holy cow, look at all this. And I instantly recognize the 25-year-old bootleg of Cool Edit that I was working on until this last year when I finally gave up and started using Adobe Audition.
The technology of this is really fun because you're right. this was not taking place in 2002 when it aired in 2002. So it is.
It was because there's a reference to September 11th and the wars.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So
it was still aging technology.
Yeah, I guess the police department's just behind in technology more than the fact that they don't have the technology doesn't exist. And that's the point of that FBI scene. So I take that back. But we're going to see the technology progress. However, some of it is really like things that didn't actually stick out to me at the time, like the judge having his computer on a separate desk behind him instead of on his desk.
Or the cops using typewriters and literally joking about, hey, I thought we were going to get computers. I thought we were supposed to be trained up on that stuff.
Yeah. You're just going to use yours to watch porn because that's what people do on the internet. Well, some things don't change. There's there's some iconic lines throughout this. Of course, you can't call this shit a war. War's end. There's incredible writing in this stuff. I did not recall that McNulty requested the boat as his least favorite in episode 1.
By saying it was his single least favorite thing, which is what made it so hilarious that the opening scene of season 2 is going to have him on a boat.
Yeah. And they'll call back to that. And the fact that he made that clear that this was his least favorite thing. There's some really cool stuff like the elevator security cam shot where we're seeing them in black and white from an actual security camera. I would expect that they put up in the elevator. Cool cinematography, stuff like that. This reviewing of it, thing I did not understand the first time, but understand now on the second time. One of the aspects of this show that went over my head was McNulty's in trouble because by doing the good cop thing, he has made real work for everyone in the department and everybody's mad. And they actively like this whole idea when you watch a crime movie and people are arguing over this is my case or whatever. Like the Wire made me understand that nobody wants to do all that extra work and have that that's
liability.
bad for your stats. Yeah. And we'll go that will play out more in later episodes when they talk about what do they something on the table. I can't remember the phrase, bars on the table or stacks on the table or something, but they're like, what the metrics are what's important, not the principle. Right. And that is very clear in this episode when they're like, oh man, I hope that doesn't come back a murder. Because then you have to clear it. And if you can't clear it because it's a transient, which you're not going to be able to, then you have an uncleared case and that's bad for your stats. No one cares who actually killed the guy, right? Yeah. No one's concerned about a man being murdered. They are concerned about the stats. That doesn't mean that none of them care about stopping murders. They do, but their job is stats. And secondary to that is fighting crime.
Yes. So another aspect, for the uninitiated, if you're just jumping into The Wire, each season is about a different aspect. Season 1 is about drugs. Season 2 is about the importing of drugs. Season 3 is about, harm, what's it called? Harm reduction possibilities and stuff.
Yeah,
season 4, schools, and season 5 is the press.
Journalism.
But in that first season thing, The Wire was the first show to really highlight the parity, the symmetry between the cops and the drug traffickers, right down to there being chiefs and lieutenants and foot soldiers and people on the street or whatever. And it's never so perfectly highlighted as when in, I believe, if not exactly back-to-back scenes, they are within 2 minutes of each other. The chief, one of the chief says, McNulty walks in and the commissioner says, sit your ass down. And then sure enough, 2 minutes later, D'Angelo Barksdale comes in and Avon Barksdale says to D'Angelo, sit your ass down, in a perfect mirror image of it. And then it's like, now I see it. It might as well have a siren on it. But at the time, all that went over my head the first go around.
Yeah, it's there's no good guys or bad guys. you might look at this and think they're all bad guys, but really it's just people. And with different kinds of motivations, and trying to fulfill those motivations.
I'm trying to think of what else. Boy,
the cast.
The
cast has gone on to greater things. Well, not greater things necessarily, but they've continued. The cast has gone on to other great things.
Yeah, and the guy who played Bubbles, Bubs right from scene one is incredible.
Yeah,
he's great.
Wallace, little Creed, right?
Wait,
Michael B. Jordan.
Oh my God, it is Michael B. Jordan. I didn't even realize that. Wow.
Yeah. McNulty's going to become Prince of Wales and eventually king.
I forgot just how green D'Angelo Barksdale starts off as.
Oh yeah.
Like he's so hesitant to engage with the reality, the brutal reality of things, and he makes dumb mistakes, and he's just so green.
I also remember being shocked to discover that Idris Elba was British.
Oh yeah.
Because he does such a great American accent. On the other hand, watching it now, I just see Idris Elba. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's definitely Idris Elba. I know him really well now. Not that he isn't good as Stringer Bell, but I definitely am seeing him there.
McNulty's British too, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. It's interesting too. We know that McNulty from the later episodes kind of has a self-destructive streak, and everybody keeps asking why he talked to the judge. And I feel like I have more insight to his character now. It's like, because he can't resist screwing it up. Whatever it is, he just can't resist. It's like it needs a little bit of poking, so he's gonna poke, and that's what he did. And then he's all like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was really dumb. I should have talked to the judge and made this case interesting."
Yeah. Although, and I kind of missed it the first time around. Now that we're watching it again, McNulty knows exactly what he's doing when he's talking to the judge.
Yeah.
He doesn't back out. He doesn't go like, well, I'm just kind of interested, whatever, I don't know. Why are you calling me in here? He makes a point of like, y'all got to go after Avon Barksdale. Like he starts this on purpose, knowing that he's going to take heat for it.
Do you think he's playing bunk at the end when it looks like an offhand decision that he's like, no, I'm going to take point on this and I'm really going to try to crack it? Do you think he's?
I don't know that he's playing
from the beginning, or do you think that he just poked because he knows to poke, and then later found himself at that emotional crossroads, and after seeing his buddy at the FBI, he's like, "No, I do want to crack this."
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say that he didn't plan this all the way through, but he also wanted to get Avon Barksdale on people's radar. That he was frustrated with the Barksdale Empire doing this because it happened to him, and then it happened to this other guy, and it's a little bit of a personal vengeance of like, somebody needs to stop these MFers from doing this, and so he tells the judge, thinking like, I don't know, this is my best chance at getting some attention on this guy, but not with the plan of, and I will lead the charge to the end. It's more opportunistic of like, oh, I guess they're really paying attention. Okay, well, we should try to actually get him. Like, I think it's his attitude evolves as the situation unfolds.
Yeah, and the this that you were referring to is when the Barksdale Empire was able to get key witnesses to flip testimony.
To flip.
So that D'Angelo gets off from murder one and murder two.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Sadly, I think in some respects, we will not be watching episode 2 next week.
Between me and the wall. Sometimes it's 11 o'clock and I'm not quite ready for bed. I may strap in, like, the last thing I need to do is be one of those guys who just keeps doing laps on old TV shows. But
yeah,
The Wire calls to me. It calls to me, Tom.
For the next in the full experience, we will be jumping ahead to season 3. This is one of those weird situations where the lowest comes before the ultimate, but we stick to the acronym. So ultimate episode next, season 3, episode 11, Middle Ground. That is where we're going next.
If people are wanting let's give a little bit of context on this. If somebody is actually doing the full experience with this, season 3 is about the idea of harm reduction, and I loved it because it's like basically you get a commissioner who kind of shrugs and decides to go rogue. He's so tired of seeing bad policy yield more violence to the street and no changes that he just basically straight up tells them, like, these blocks will never be enforced. Keep your filthy garbage in there. Handle your house, and you can operate in the daylight. I'll turn a blind eye. And there's a delightful honeymoon period in the middle of this season. And being near the end, I assume that this is one of the it all comes crashing down moments that we're going to experience in glorious fashion.
Indeed. So that is the next time on The Full Experience, season 3, episode 11, Middle Ground. You get these episodes early if you're a patron. Go check it out, patreon.com/Cordkillers, and we will deliver the ultimate episode of The Wire on The Full Experience next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.